Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, because we're having us a barbecue. Former tennis superstar Serena Williams is dealing with allegations of bleaching her skin once again. Now, as new pictures of Serena Williams have appeared in the mainstream media, showing her wearing a blonde wig and makeup several shades lighter than her original skin tone, many are speculating that Serena Williams has gone out here and bleached her skin once again. And Serena Williams has gone out here and fired back by saying that there is a thing called sunlight. Now, this whole argument by Serena Williams is completely illogical as I see it, because when it comes to the sun basically darkens people's skin. It doesn't lighten it, and it doesn't lighten a woman's skin to the point where she's basically several shades lighter than her original skin tone. Now, what's happening here with Serena Williams is something that I've seen with another picture of a black woman who went out here going from looking like an extremely attractive sister who basically shows some serious self-hate issues with the wig that she had on, to basically changing herself into a caricaturized image of a white woman. And this is what I believe is happening here with Serena Williams. Now, there's been a big problem with a lot of black women as related to their whole perception of self-image, and that whole perception of self-image has been colored by the system of white supremacy. And as their perception of self has been colored by the system of white supremacy, what happens to many black women like Serena Williams is they want to go out here and be elevated to the highest position in social hierarchy of America, and they see the white woman in that position elevated to that position by the white man, and what they want to do is have that same position. And because they want to have that same position of social status, what they do is start changing their faces and their bodies in order to appear like the ultimate ideal and standard of beauty that was established by the system of white supremacy by elevating the white woman to this high social status. Now, what many of these black women do these days, because now we have the technology, is they go out here and use their resources to go out here and participate in doing things like many speculate Serena Williams has done, by going out and doing things like participating in plastic surgeries to modify their noses, and then going out here and looking to bleach their skin to make themselves appear to look just like a white woman. And that's possibly what possibly happened here as related to this image, because I remember seeing Serena Williams and remembering the dark-skinned, beautiful black woman who her father basically raised to love her natural hair and love her natural skin, and basically brought her out here wearing her natural braids with the beads. Unfortunately, as his daughter started to become more independent and started going out on her own, this is where she basically got indoctrinated into the whole system of white supremacy as related to her whole perception of self. And this is where I believe she started becoming consumed with self-hatred as she was playing tennis with all of these white women. And as she was playing tennis with all of these white women and saw them being elevated to a high social status, even though Serena was a tennis superstar who basically dominated most of these women on the tennis courts, what happened with Serena is she wanted that social acceptance of white society, and as she became spellbound, like I talk about in my novel Spellbound, she wanted to fit herself into a black box that would be acceptable to white people. And sadly, as she did this, she wound up turning herself into a caricature of a white woman in order to become what she believed to become the ultimate ideal and standard of beauty. Now, many people will sit there and try to go out and say that black men are the ones who go out here and look to persuade black women to look like this. But no, this has absolutely nothing to do with heterosexual black men, and many black men like myself have no interest in even seeing our sisters go out here and, as I believe, disfigure themselves by going out here and getting plastic surgeries that basically change their face. And we have no interest in seeing our sisters go out here and put harsh chemicals on their skin to strip it of its melanin and make it several shades lighter. This is a narrative that black women have pushed to go out here and try to deflect accountability for these decisions to go out here and change their skin tone. And they want to say that it's black men that are the ones who want to see that ideal. No, that's not true at all. No, many brothers like myself, we love black women. We see black women as extremely attractive, and we're willing to accept black women as they are. Unfortunately, when it comes to many black women, there's an issue of self-hatred due to them living in this system of white supremacy. And as they go out here and subconsciously imbibe all of these images of white women from birth, what they do is see the white woman as the ideal because she's elevated to the highest position in society. And when they see the blonde white woman as the ideal presented in society, they aspire to be that ideal. And usually what happens, sadly, is when many black women start to get established as they're indoctrinated into feminism and wind up making money, is they start to make a transformation of themselves into this caricaturized ideal that they've imagined in their heads. And as they transform themselves into this caricaturized ideal of a white woman, they basically go out here and distort their entire faces to look like what they believe this white woman appears to be. And as they turn themselves into this white woman, they basically show how much they hate being a black woman. And this is the type of mental illness that I believe that Serena Williams is participating in, because when I look at this picture of Serena Williams, it's clear to me that she is bleaching her skin because her skin no longer looks natural anymore. No, it no longer looks like natural skin like she had as related to her original picture, nor does the makeup she puts on look even like natural makeup that I've even seen women in the goth subculture, because even though women in the goth subculture go out here and put up a image of themselves, it still looks somewhat natural as related to things. But when I look at this image of makeup that Serena Williams has on, this definitely looks like to me that this woman basically has a completely distorted picture of herself. And as she has this completely distorted picture of herself, everything is completely exaggerated. I mean, I'm looking at these eyebrows, which basically are completely exaggerated to just a distorted level. I'm looking at the contour, and it's just basically exaggerated to a point, not to mention this foundation being multiple shades lighter, and even the skin basically being lighter on her neck. I mean, it's clear to me that Serena Williams is bleaching her skin, and it's clear to me that with this blonde wig, she's transformed herself into what she believes to be this idealized image of this white woman that she has in her mind, very similar to the very disturbing picture of the black woman that I saw on Facebook, where this black woman, who again was a very pretty sister, even though she's wearing a wig, is a very pretty sister, but basically has transformed herself. And this transformation is something that I believe is some sort of mental illness that some black women have as related to their perception of self. And this is something that it comes straight out of the story that I wrote in the ISIS series called ISIS, the Beauty Myth, where this black-owned cosmetics owner, Rahima Sanders, who owned the Sepia Cosmetics Corporation, basically, when she saw Isis, a black female goddess, started to covet her immortality. And as Isis has a confrontation with Rahima, she runs into this black woman whose face is completely distorted, and so distorted that it doesn't even look human anymore. And that's what I see as related to these pictures of Serena Williams and this deeply troubling picture of this sister. I see, again, a black woman who basically has been so consumed with white supremacy to the point where she doesn't even see black as beautiful anymore, and has so little love for self that she cannot even see the beauty in herself, to the point where she's basically turned herself into this, again, caricaturized image of a white woman, a caricaturized image of the ideals she believes, and believes that white is more beautiful than black, to the point where she's basically erased all of her black features. That's what I see here with these images of what these black women are trying to present. Again, these images really show how the impact of white supremacy on the black female mind, and shows how deep white supremacy goes into the black female mind, that that these black women, again, transform themselves and say that they're transforming themselves to this ultimate standard of beauty, and then many of them want to say that they're doing this for black men. But many brothers like myself, we never wanted to see our sisters do this to themselves. No, we love our sisters as they are. We love our sisters with their natural brown skin. We love our sisters with their natural black hair. And back in the day, in the 80s, we loved our sisters for who they are. Unfortunately, what happens to many young black girls is they get caught up in this system of white supremacy at an early age. And as they get caught up in this system of white supremacy at an early age, it basically just goes out here and warps the minds of many of our sisters, and warps it to the point where they think that in order to be considered attractive, they have to turn themselves into a caricature of a white woman. And many, again, are doing this not because black men want to see this. No, they're doing this because they want to fit into the black box that's acceptable to white people. They want to be accepted by white people. They want to be accepted by white society. They want to be elevated to a high place in white society. And again, it just shows me the deepness of white supremacy on the black female mind, which I explored in another ISIS series book, ISIS Dark Incubus, where I talk about how it basically affects the way black women learn how to love because of all the trauma they experience from the system of white supremacy. And again, this system of white supremacy does such devastating damage to the mental health of black women that it makes them sit there and think, oh, that they can deny things as related to reality, because Serena Williams making this statement about, oh, there's a thing called sunlight. Well, I'm a black man, and I have been lighter as related to sunlight, and I have been darker as related to the summertime. And when it comes to my skin tone, it always stays brown. And it always stays brown because I know that I am black. I am proud of my blackness. I am proud of my natural black hair. And my family members are like I have a sister who loves her natural hair. And dark-skinned black women, again, are attractive, but sadly they don't see how beautiful they are because they buy into the beauty myth of white supremacy. They buy into the beauty myth of white supremacy. And as they buy into that beauty myth, sadly, they wind up twisting themselves into a creature that is a caricature of a white woman, and a caricature of a white woman that is extremely unattractive to many black men, because it just shows how little they love themselves and how little they love being black. That's the sad part about looking at these pictures of Serena Williams. When I look at these pictures of Serena Williams, and I remember the cute dark-skinned sister who used to play tennis at the US Open here in New York, I thought that she was going to grow up to become a beautiful young woman like her father was trying to raise her to become. I thought she was going to grow up to become a beautiful young woman who loved being black. But sadly, what's happened to Serena Williams, because I clearly can look at these pictures and see that she's had some work done on her nose. I can clearly look at this woman and see that her nose has completely changed. I can look at her skin tone as related to her neck and see that this is not makeup, because I've looked at many women who were a part of the goth scene and I've looked at their makeup and I can see their actual skin tone, and even though some of them put makeup on their necks, I can tell the difference between a natural neck and a makeup neck and a neck that basically has been bleached. I can tell the difference, and again, when I look at the way this makeup has been applied and the just complete distortion of the eyebrows, again, the eyebrows just aren't natural at all as related to the way that they're looking, and I'm looking at the whole contour of her face. I'm seeing, again, really serious plastic surgery, not to mention this blonde wig. Again, this is not sunlight. This is not the sun, because the sun tans you and makes you darker. No, what I'm seeing here is a bad case of what I would call black female dysmorphia as related to their face. And because they have this dysmorphia, they basically wind up changing their face into this caricaturized image of a white woman in what they believe a white woman is, and do this because they want that acceptance of white society and they want to be elevated to that place in white society they have reserved for the white woman. And this is one of the reasons why many of these black women who have this deep self-hate issue go out here and again make their faces look like this. They go out here and make their faces look like this because they want to be elevated to that position. And it's also a reason why many of these same dark-skinned women who have this issue also have an issue with biracial black women. They have an issue with biracial black women because they believe the biracial black woman is elevated to a higher position above them because they've bought into the system of white supremacy. They've bought into the divide as related to the house slave and the field slave, not ever looking at the torment that the biracial black woman went through, being in some cases the daughter of the slave master or the overseers, and her basically being sexually abused just as bad as the dark-skinned female slave, and even worse after being sexually abused, winding up being sold into prostitution by the same man who wound up siring her as a child. I mean, many people again don't look at the torment that biracial black women went through, and again, how they also had to deal with the same white supremacy as related to them looking to get that white acceptance. But what really drives both the biracial black woman and the full foundational black American black woman to participate in, again, self-destructive behaviors, what drives them is this whole mental perception of looking to find acceptance in the system of white supremacy instead of looking to find the love of God, because God is the one who made you a black woman. God makes everything perfect and good in his eyes. God is the one who loves the black woman, but sadly many black women don't love themselves out here, and sadly because they don't love themselves because they've bought into the religion of white supremacy, they basically believe that they need to transform themselves into a glorified white woman in order to be loved in society. But sadly, this shows how little love they have for themselves, that they turn themselves into these caricaturized creatures. Again, a caricaturized image of a white woman, when the whole thing is that whole caricaturized image of a white woman shows how little they love being black overall. And that's the sad part about Serena Williams and this other sister here, is they don't see the beauty in themselves. And sadly, like Rahima Sanders that I wrote about in my book, ISIS, the Beauty Myth, they've basically turned themselves into what would be considered to be an abomination. That was what Rahima did later on in the Beauty Myth in the next story I did called Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess. This is where Rahima basically went from going beyond the plastic surgery to going to go out here and participate in using nanotechnology to basically go out here and turn herself into a transhumanized image of a black woman. That's what she did in the book Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess. She turned herself into a transhumanized, caricaturized, idealized image of a woman, and basically turned herself into an abomination due to the deep self-hatred that she had as of being black. And as she turned herself into this characterized image, she had a confrontation with Isis once more in an effort to mock her as related to her immortality. And further after that confrontation, and she got beaten by Isis, what happened was, this is where she ran into the devil Lucifer, and the devil rebuilt her further again, taking her further away from her humanity. And this led to this was done in the story Samurai Goddess, and eventually into the later story Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, where she went to go after Isis once more. And after that final confrontation with Isis, this is where Lucifer basically took her out of the system, because she wanted to go out here and surpass the devil and go out here and create her own order. And as she looked to create her own order, this is where the devil wound up again taking her off the board of earth and sent her straight to hell. And sadly, that's the same road that many of these black women who participate in this type of disfigurement of themselves go on, because as they go out here and reject the beauty that God has given them, they reject God in and of themselves. That's the scary part about this whole thing. As they transform themselves into this, again, characterized image of a white woman, they basically, again, reject God and basically participate in what I believe to be idolatry. They participate in idolatry in making the system of white supremacy the God before them, and putting the white woman as an idol in front of them, participating in idolatry. That's what's being done here as related to this image of Serena Williams and this poor, sad sister I'm seeing here. This is what's being done here as related to these pictures, and these pictures basically show you what happens when you, again, wind up imbibing the system of white supremacy. It just basically, again, is so insidious on the black female mind, and it's so insidious on the black female mind that you see black women basically destroying themselves, and destroying themselves to the point where they no longer even appear to be human. And that's the scary part about this. I mean, this just shows, again, how deep white supremacy is on people's minds. It's just like the late David Carroll used to say. He once speculated that he thought being a black woman was a mental illness. No, I'm going to have to disagree with the late David Carroll on that. I don't believe being a black woman is a mental illness, but I believe many black women have a mental illness. I was sitting there talking to my sister, and as I showed her these pictures, and she herself just said to me that when you see women like this who put on makeup like this, it's basically a mental illness that they basically, because they don't really see their own beauty, they just see a distorted picture of themselves. And as they see this distorted picture from the rose-colored reality that they live in, this is where they go out here and put this image of themselves out there and believe it's ideal. But what's even worse than that is that these women will continue again changing themselves, like I talk about with the Rahima Sanders character, where they start looking to further transform themselves to the point where they start looking like Jocelyn Wildenstein, that woman, because again, they bought into the beauty myth of white supremacy. And as they bought into the beauty myth of white supremacy, they don't see anything perfect at all. But the irony is as they look to get to that road to perfection, what they do is, again, buy into this beauty myth. And this beauty myth basically has these women basically changing themselves into something that becomes far less than human. Now, if you want to check out my story, which deals with the black female image and white supremacy on the black female mind to the point where it even impacts a black goddess, you can check out the entire Cyber Goddess saga that starts with Isis, the beauty myth, and continues in Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, and is followed up with Isis Samurai Goddess, and eventually ends in Isis Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The entire Cyber Goddess saga is available in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and you can also find it at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And I wrote that series because what I want black sisters to understand is that you are beautiful, you are loved for who you are, and we brothers love you and want to elevate you to a high level. But the only thing that's keeping you from doing that is your perception of self. We love black women. I love black women. And that's why I wrote The Beauty Myth, because I understand the impact of white supremacy on the black female mind. And I further followed it up with the next ISIS book that starts the third story arc, ISIS Dark Incubus, because I understand how deep this damage is to sisters' minds. And I want to help the next generation of sisters come to understand this whole perception of self doesn't come from you, but come from the system of white supremacy. And this is why we have to create images that empower ourselves and show how beautiful we are and how beautiful our sisters are. And again, this black man loves black women and wants to see black women grow and actualize their potential. This is why I write books like the Cyber Goddess Saga for readers of all ages, and write books for young black teenagers like Spellbound to help you break out of the spellbound mindset that has you looking to fit into the black box that's acceptable to white people. And this is my way of trying to empower the sisters so that we can see the beauty of our sisters and see how beautiful they are and overcome all of that adversity as related to things, because contrary to what many black women believe, black men, we love you as you are. We love you for who you are. We love you, and we want to see you be your best, and we love the natural you. I mean, I remember growing up in high school, loving natural sisters and loving the black woman as she is. But the mainstream media, again, doesn't want you to see that and doesn't want to hear from black men like myself. They want to put this idea in your head that, oh, we want this. No, we don't want this at all. No, we want our sisters to be beautiful as they are with their natural hair and their natural skin. That's what we grew up. That's what I grew up with in the 80s. And I want this generation to have that same type of beauty and get that type of quality of beauty. And that's why I make these videos like this for the sisters, and again, want the sisters to do right. So that's what I do here on this channel. And in order to help me stay on the air, I'm asking everybody to continue to support the channel by either buying the books like I did for the entire Cyber Goddess Saga, or my books like The Woman Crisis, or Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and also continue to help the channel out by dropping a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment right now. Available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Samurai Goddess. The Goddess Next Door takes on Kung Fu killers in this action-packed martial arts ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Samurai Goddess in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The Goddess Next Door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess Saga at online bookstores everywhere today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.